some big Scream 6 news, as well as some big radio silence news. Let's get into it.
Well, sometimes that is better.
Hey everybody, what's up? Killjoy Jake here, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Today we're talking a little bit about the radio silence, guys, and we also have a Scream 6 update. But before we get into all of that, I'm gonna need you guys to like this video and subscribe for more horror content coming at you in the future. Alright, but getting right into this, because this is so ridiculously exciting, the radio silence guys may have just been picked to do the next Escape from New York movie. Bloody Disgusting reports that the return of Snake Plissken may be imminent after an almost 30-year wait. We haven't seen Kurt Russell play the iconic macho role since 1996's Escape from LA. Courtesy of Giant Freakin' Robot, early reports are suggesting that creative collective Radio Silence, who did the films Ready or Not and the new Scream movie, are in talks to direct a future Escape from New York feature film. According to Bloody Disgusting, everything is a maybe right now. Kurt Russell has not been contacted yet, and the whole project has yet to be greenlit. Rumbles are only saying it might happen, so don't blow your load quite yet. Now, Scream fans who usually skip past this little first part of the video where I talk about some other news story I'm really excited about may be confused right now because there's not chapters at the bottom of this video for you to do that. I know some of you do that, my analytics tell me you do. Don't just skip the fun little story at the beginning. Sometimes there's cool little news stories in there. But this time it actually has to relate to Scream news in my opinion. If they're already eyeing the Radio Silence guys for future projects, does that mean we actually have a Scream 7 on the horizon? I mean, this doesn't necessarily mean that we're not getting a Scream 7. That's not what this means at all. This is also not a confirmed project. I would be very excited to get a new Escape from New York film from the Radio Silence guys just to see what they would do to adapt John Carpenter to the screen, opposed to how they've already done so well with Wes Craven. And maybe they'll honor John Carpenter the same way they did with Wes Craven, by naming a new character after him and killing him in the slowest and painful way I've ever seen on screen. But in all seriousness, I don't think this is one of those things that's gonna be we don't get a Scream 7, it's gonna be a David Gordon Green situation again, where Radio Silence signs on to another big project while finishing up the other big project they were already doing. This was a recipe for disaster when it happened to David Gordon Green, but let's see what happens for the Radio Silence guys. I'm rooting for them and I'm in their corner as always. Speaking of which, I may have a big video on Halloween Ends tomorrow, look out for it. Alright, but getting into specifically the Scream 6 news. Viewer Anon, who is brought up constantly on this page for leaking information on movies, has just spilled the beans on some other Scream 6 information. I talked about some of his other rumors in my last Scream 6 video. There'll be a little card in like an exclamation point at the top right of the screen that you can click on and check out that video. Someone in my comments told me yesterday that the cards don't come up at the right time sometimes. So if that doesn't happen, there's a little exclamation point like over here or over here. I don't know. Now this tweet may confuse some people because he kind of starts talking about this other account called Clips Comprehend that was claiming to know a bunch of information about Scream 6 but ended up being very wrong about the trailer release date. That's basically all you need to know about this Clips account if you know nothing else. Viewer Anon vouched for him though, so a lot of people are kind of angry with Viewer Anon at the moment about that, but he kind of responds to all of that right here in this tweet. Viewer Anon says, full disclosure, about a week ago, I was contacted by someone who claimed to have an in-depth plot synopsis of Scream 6. This was an untested source whose info, while detailed, did not match things I had heard previously, whereas my info did match Clips. Honestly, because I had vouched for it, I wanted Clips' info to be correct. It would mean my sources going back to Scream 5 were still solid, but there are no way to know for sure who was telling the truth. He finishes off that thought by saying, it's too much evidence to ignore, Clips is lying, my previous sources were either misled or actively trying to throw me off track. So I'm sorry for my part in spreading misinformation. I appreciate that about Viewer Anon because I feel like most of these leak people are just going to be like, yeah, whatever, and throw it off to the side. Viewer Anon actually kind of cares about his reputation and the fans. And don't forget, he was right about a lot of stuff regarding Scream 5 last year. He correctly predicted that that red glow coming from Ghostface's masks is a voice changer, and that was actually a pretty cool scene in the new movie. Whether it was Amber or Stu behind the mask. Theories, I like them. Viewer Anon claims to have seen a rough version of Scream 6's trailer, saying, through another source, I was lucky enough to view a rough version of Scream 6's trailer, and the footage matched the new source's description down to Kirby's role and Gale's phone dialogue with the killer. You know you're like the 10th person to try this, right? But there was a kicker. While previous sources swore the title was Scream, the news source had been adamant that it was in fact just Scream 6 with Roman numerals, and the title card on the trailer I viewed, Scream 6 Roman numerals. He also finishes off the tweet by saying, anyway, if you made it this far down, Kirby is now an FBI agent. Okay, so that is a lot of crazy claims right now, so let's kind of siphon through all of those. Starting off with Gale's dialogue with the killer, which would be a first for the franchise. We have never seen Gale Weathers answer the phone for Ghostface. Isn't that crazy to think about? Another thing I love about this is that if the trailer is focusing on Gale and Kirby, that means they're going to have a much bigger role in this movie. That's a big positive for me. I would love to see like a 50-50 split of the focus on the new characters as well as Gale and Kirby having their own like side thing going on. And going back to that killer conversation on the phone, viewer Anon even quotes Gale at the end here saying, you know you're like the 10th person to try this, right? I could very much so see Gale Weathers saying that. I love it. It's funny, it's meta, it's cute. I dig it. The thing that has me the most excited though is that the film will actually be called Scream 6, which would be fucking awesome. That's a lot better than Scream with 2 exclamation points because that just sounds like the title of the original film, but if I was saying it to someone who is really far away from me. And also, just to reiterate this real quick, it actually doesn't matter what the title of the new Scream film is going to be because we're all just going to be calling it Scream 6 anyways. I do like the Roman numerals though, I'll tell you what. But at the end, this is probably the most interesting thing he gives us, specifically saying that Kirby is now an FBI agent. I have some mixed feelings on this because this is a really interesting turn for the character and could elevate this movie to new heights, make it something more interesting if the FBI are involved. That basically confirms that our Ghostface this time around is doing some even crazier, way more fucked up shit than we've ever seen in the past. But what does that do to the character of Kirby Reed? For a lot of us, Kirby is a fan favorite from Scream 4, specifically because she's this rebellious teenager who's a total badass. Kirby was going to be a different character 10 plus years later anyways, but I feel like this strips one of the coolest things away from her character. Becoming an FBI agent makes me think that she's going to be a lot more straight-laced and like way more serious, which I think would be a really boring decision for her character. But I'm hoping the only thing that this actually does to her character is just amplify the badassery. That's not a word, but fuck it. More than anything, this kind of gets me excited because why is the FBI there? Like, what is Ghostface doing this time around that would render this? How many crazy kills is our Ghostface killer gonna get this time around? I can't wait to find out. As I like to say at the end of these rumor videos, take this with a grain of salt. It may not be true. Remember what happened with Clips Comprehend. What do you guys think about this new information though? Do you think there could be some truth to it? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching this brand new Scream 6 update video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content in the future. Also, please make sure to support this channel on Patreon or becoming a channel member by clicking that join button on my page. Thank you all again for watching, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.